Upper SM here with a Wizard class budget deck tech for those of you without Alrund's Epiphany but with Wizard class and a decent collection of the perennial cards we have in Origins and the PMA sets. This will be a good primer for you. I love doing Wizard class loops with Alrund's Epiphany and the rare Teferi Vanguard, but if you don't have those, you can still make a very potent deck. Something like the above could work extremely well for the Harvesttide Bottom node. It's all based around Wizard class, which is an enchantment support, which the relevant text is when you draw a card, if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, each spell in your hand gains 3 mana. Therefore, we want a bunch of spells that will cantrip, cheap spells that will draw cards for us. Our win condition here is Umara Mystic. It has wizardry. When a wizard or a spell is cast, it triggers. It'll get bigger. And then if the cast card is a wizard, you draw a card. Otherwise, deal 2 damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. So it'll get bigger to attack that turn and hit the opponent. One non-cantripping card we have is Rite of Flame, just as a little acceleration from PMA. The rest of the cards are all cheap spells, cantrips, which will draw cards. We'll note that Stratus Walk has to have a creature to target, but there usually be creatures in play. This will draw us a card, then learn to get us up to 2 cards in hand. Alchemist Vial is an interesting thing to think about. It actually works okay if you disable creatures as you're looping, especially if you need to meet secondaries. For instance, on the top node of the Harvesttide, this can actually be great with 1 or 2 werewolves in your deck. As a budget node if you don't have Alrund's Epiphany or Teferi, because you can control both the opponent's board or your board to make sure you meet all the secondaries. You can kind of pace it to slow down what you need. Eureka Moment is great because not only it draws you cards, but it converts mana as you're looping, so it might give mana to those cards which are stuck in your hand. It's great in mono blue with Jace Mirmage, but we are using Ral in this deck for his ultimate, which can also just kill the opponent much quicker in a budget deck. Mentor's Guidance is great because we draw cards and then they each get 4 mana. But if you control a cleric, druid, shaman, warlock, or wizard or vanguard, the wizard is the important part here because, as we'll note, wizard class is a wizard. If we have that, we get to copy it and then cast it again, which is great. This is a mythic, but since it is in Origins and everybody who is a newer player, you should really try to complete your Origins sets because it will always be in Standards, and Days Undoing is a fantastic card. It's very important in this sort of build because it lets you reset your hand. If you start clogging your hand up with wizard classes in Umara Mystics you can't cast, you can use this to basically wheel your hand, which is a term for get rid of your hand, draw a new hand. And not only do you get to draw 5 cards, but they gain 3 mana. If we look at our deck, we have Rite of Flame, Artificer's Epiphany, Stratus Walk, Pop Quiz, and Alchemist Vial. All of those could be cast off of a single wizard class in play and Days Undoing, because it would be 3 mana to everything and then the 3 mana that Days Undoing gets to let us keep looping. So hopefully this is helpful to people. Upgrades for this deck quickly. If you have them, Alrund's Epiphany is awesome. Getting extra swaps in this, combined especially with Days Undoing, lets you basically go infinite for an arbitrarily large number of swamps. Also, if you have the new rare Teferi Vanguard, it is amazing because it's +1 or +2 will let you draw cards with mana, and then its ultimate, whenever you draw a card, you get to exile a card that your opponent has, either a creature or a support on the battlefield. It's amazing when you get that heroic support. Those are the big things you can use to adjust